Welcome to episode 16 of Blackhawks Banter, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. I'm Shaun Filippelli, your host for the evening. Joining me are veteran panelists Greg Boysen and Brooke LoFurno, and making his Blackhawk Banter debut straight from our very own taxi squad is Nimrit Singh. How's everyone doing tonight?
Doing good.
Good. To our viewers, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and check out all of our work at thehockeywriters.com. Links can be found in the description below. Let's get right into things here. So looking back to last week, they obviously had a game postponed, but didn't mean that they were short of any action. So as we look back, the Blackhawks kicked off their week as we aired our last episode on Monday, finishing it with a respectable 2-1-0 record after sweeping the Red Wings and then seeing their 3-game streak broken at the hands of the Hurricanes. This team is obviously playing better hockey than most would have predicted, and they've even made it into our very own Hockey Writers Power Rankings. A lot of young players are stepping up, while veterans continue to lead by example. Who is your Blackhawk star of the week? Brooke, we'll give you the honors here since you just had an article posted about this today.
Yeah, I would pick Soderberg, I think. Thank you guys for that suggestion, because I was going to pick Kane, but Kane is obviously a star every week, so I guess there's no bad answer there. But yeah, Soderberg was impressive and kind of maybe under the radar. I don't think a lot of people probably would have thought of him, but he had that big goal against Columbus that helped us to win. I don't know if we would have won if he didn't step up there. So that is big. And plus he had like an 80% face-off thing during that game too, like insane. So I think he's been really strong since then. Then he had a power play goal against Columbus. Carolina. I know that was like kind of garbage time because we were already losing, but still that's a positive. So I'm going to say him. I hope he keeps that up because that's really encouraging and good for our team.
I agree. Nice to see him show up. Greg, are you going with Soderberg or anyone else stand out to you?
No, I'll give 88 his props. I know it's hard. You could easily name him every week as the star of the week, and it's hard to, what can you say about him that hasn't been said 1,000 times over the past 12 years? Unfortunately for him, I don't think he gets the pub that he probably deserves, just because it's what he's doing exactly what we expect out of him. And he had a great week last week. That Spinorama goal was great. He's got 26 points in 19 games. If it wasn't for a couple of guys in Canada, Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid, you can really be talking about serious Hart Trophy consideration. But again, because he does this all the time, it's just kind of like, oh, ho-hum, Patrick Kane. So he doesn't get that national pub, I don't think. But I'm going to go with Kane.
Yeah, I got to agree. Obviously, he doesn't always get the credit he's due, but that's because it's expected of him, like you said, and that's not a bad thing. Nimrit, Kane, Soderberg, anyone else who stood out to you last week?
I have to agree with Greg. My first star has to be Kane, just because he's been consistent throughout the week with a goal and 2 assists. Despite not recording a point in his first game against the Red Wings, I still think Kane did a really good job putting his team in position to win. And I think it's important to have these players perform consistently, because once they're not performing consistently, it's going to really affect the overall team. So my star of the week has to go to Kane.
Yeah, deservedly so. Obviously, consistency is key, and he's showing that. I'm going to go straight back to what Brooke said. I'm going to go Soderberg simply because I think he's due the credit that we need to give him. Me personally, when he came in, I vouched that I thought he was going to be up there as far as one of the best newcomers, and he disappointed me early. And then he's sort of taken that and shown us a lot better play in the last week, so to speak. So just from what he's been able to do, like Brooke said, Brooke already hit the numbers out there as far as his points and his face-off production, just his presence, the fact that I was visibly seeing him more as opposed to when he first started off, just not seeing what he could do because he wasn't really making himself visible or his presence known. But just for that simple fact that I was noticing more, I was hearing his name more, and he seemed to be in the place for the right reasons, I'm going to give Soderberg the credit I think he's due on that one. As far as players go, who's surprising us and who's doing well and who's stepping up, I want to take a look at some early season Calder nods. In our preview article, I asked who deserved the Calder Memorial Trophy as the NHL's Rookie of the Year if it were to be between Kevin Lankinen, Philip Kurashev, and Pia Suter. Lankinen was our unanimous winner, unsurprisingly, and while he deserves all the praise we can possibly give him, and I will say that as a goalie that I love when goalies are getting the credit they're due, I wanted to shake things up a little bit for our conversation. Looking at the second tier of prospects from the rookie class, who has been the biggest standout to you amongst Brendan Hagel, Ian Mitchell, and Nicholas Boden. Greg, I'm going to start with you on this one.
I know Hagel's going to get a lot of love, not just from this group, but he's become a fan favorite real quick, and rightly so. But as far as who's been the most impressive, I'm most impressed with Ian Mitchell. He has just been so consistent and just confident on the ice. I always worry about guys who play that extra year or two in college. I'm always a little weary, but man, he's put those doubts to rest pretty easy. There's a lot of Duncan Keith game in Ian Mitchell's, except the biggest difference is he's a right-handed shot, which you gotta enjoy. So yeah, he's just been so. It's not a knock against the other two guys you mentioned, but Mitchell's been very impressive. He's handled the NHL rather smoothly, I would say. Little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, he's been really good.
Yeah, he's looked really confident, calm out there, which has been nice to see. I agree. Nimrit, who's getting the nod from you?
I've liked what I've seen from Nicholas Boden. I know that's not a popular pick, but he hasn't played too many games compared to Mitchell and Hagel. But he's made the most of his opportunities. If you look at his stats in 11 games, he's played, he scored 2 goals and had 3 assists. And I think overall playing alongside Duncan Keith, he's going to learn a lot and he's going to progress a lot. Personally, if I were to make the decisions, I would play him a little bit more just because I think he has a lot of potential that people might not see.
Yeah, good pick. I mean, he's obviously producing with the time he's getting. I think it goes without saying who Brooke's going to pick, but let's go to her anyway. Brooke?
You guys know I'm the president of the Brandon Hagel fan club, so I guess I'll pick him. So I'm actually glad you two said Ian Mitchell and Nicholas Boden. I didn't know if you guys would pick Boden, so I'm excited that Nimrit picked him. Anyways, do you know what? For like a Chicago reference, Hagel reminds me of Ryan Arcidiacono on the Bulls. Just pure hustle. It doesn't always translate on the scoreboard. Obviously, he still has yet to score his first NHL goal, but the way he plays, just that complete competitiveness, hustle, heart, love all of it. So hopefully it will translate. I think we're going to say this every week. Hopefully this will be the week he finally gets on the scoreboard. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm impressed with them. But I'm also impressed with Mitchell and Boden too. I think they kind of remind me a little bit of Eric Gustafsson, but way better offensively, but obviously they're way better defensively than Gustafsson was.
Yeah, I think he certainly do. I think Hagel will get there, and once he starts producing, I don't think he'll have a hard time stopping. I will break the tie here, and I'm going to go with Ian Mitchell. Bodine has proven to be a producer and presence, as Nimrit said, and I love Hagel's passion and grit. Easy to love, easy character to love. But there's something about Mitchell's game, and Greg hit on it, that he just has had such a smooth transition into the pros here. He just looks like he fits. To be honest with you, watching him early, it seemed like there was a little bit of sloppy play here and there, but it also didn't distract him, and it didn't distort his view of just getting back in there, and it didn't affect his confidence. And that was big. I mean, some of these rookies come in and have a hard time adjusting, and if they have a bad play, they get on themselves and they don't get out there and play the same way. That hasn't affected Mitchell. He's gone back out there and done the exact same thing. He's proven to be a pretty good presence as far as being offensive minded, and that's where I've seen some of the sloppy play, but he's cleaned that up and still is able to be a defensive presence when he needs to be as well. So I think a pretty good comparison to Keith, and really impressed with just how he handles himself, how he plays, and even how he speaks, which in a lot of ways says a lot about a player too. So it just feels like a really well-rounded player, and I think a lot of good things are going to come. Obviously, I have all three, but I'm going to give my love to Mitchell on this one. As far as giving our love to some players on the team, and it's nice that we have the ability to do that across the board in a lot of positions these days. I'm going to go straight to Malcolm Subban and talk a little bit about splitting goalie starts. Malcolm Subban got into the action against the Red Wings and did exactly what was required of him. He stopped 27 of 29 and secured the win for the Blackhawks, quietly improving his overall record to 2-1-1 with a save percentage of .917 and a goals against average of .265. Obviously, these numbers are a lot better than what we saw of him in that first blowout game against Tampa, but that's just proven to show that he's been developing, and that's great to see along the way. While we can all agree that Kevin Lankinen has proven to be their best option, is Subban's small sample size of resurgence enough to convince you that Chicago would benefit from giving him more opportunities? Nimrit, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the Blackhawks should give him more opportunities, and it looks like they will every now and then when Lankinen will need a rest. I feel like the more games Subban plays, the better he's going to develop, because it is a small sample size. And I feel like as a goaltender, you need you need those games to get into your rhythm and show like how good of a goalie you can be. And I think overall he's going to be a solid backup to Lakeinen. And it is a really small sample size, so I'd love to see him in more games for sure.
Yeah, definitely got to get some more games under him, but certainly a good resurrection from where he began. Brooke, we got to give Subban some more starts here. What do you think?
I don't know. You guys keep stumping me with these questions, but I really don't know because yes, he did do well against Dallas and Detroit, but those were very kind of like offensively challenged teams. And for some reason, like his rebound control still worries me even against the Red Wings. It was kind of like, oh, if that was against Tampa or something, I don't know if that would have been different. So I don't know, but I do think he does deserve more starts. I will say, hopefully, like if we put him like in a really competitive position, it might be different. And then I could really for sure say, but I do think he does deserve more starts at the end of the day. But for some reason, I'm still kind of iffy on. I still think Lankinen should probably hold the net the most at this point, just because he's been the most consistent. Like if he goes down, I'm worried. Like honestly.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, like you said, maybe it's a matter of us seeing Subban play some tougher competition to really see what he's got. Greg, Subban making you a fan yet or no?
He's definitely made me feel better. I still get itchy when he's out there sometimes. Sometimes it's an adventure. He reaches a little bit too much for me, and there's too much movement. You see the difference between Lankinen and Subban, where everything Lankinen seems to be under control and smooth, where Lankinen, he's all over the place at times. But you can't argue with the results. I don't know if they'll necessarily give him more starts per se, at least while the Blackhawks are still in contention for a playoff spot until those other teams catch up with their games in hand. You'll probably ride Lankinen as much as possible. And then later in the season, if they've fallen down, then you probably give Subban some more starts. But he does fit a very important role on this team, and it's exactly why they signed him to a 2-year contract. He is the only goalie right now eligible to be protected for the expansion draft last year. So at the very least, he's filling that need, and that they need something like that. So, at the very least, as far as he goes, right now he's proving worst case scenario, he's a serviceable backup to play every few games. And if he can be better than that, that's just gravy right now.
I think I'll agree. I think you hit it on the head by saying he's a serviceable backup. To be honest, when he came over, I know there was a lot of skepticism with his game, and rightfully so. He wasn't really proving himself when he first came over. But even starting this season, like I touched on, that first game was a blow up, but the whole team played terrible. So much, not much of a surprise there. The fact that he's been able to accumulate what he has, and again, like Nimrit said, the small sample size since, to me has at least given us the confidence to want to see him more. And I think that speaks volumes, because the reality is we could easily have just not wanted to see any more of him. But from what he's been doing, I think he deserves to get more of a shot in the net and more of a chance to prove himself as a serviceable backup. I don't think he should be coming in and taking over starts from Lankinen, or, I don't think he's done enough to prove that he's their go-to like Lankinen is. But the reality is what he has done in this smaller sample size to improve his numbers, to me, just shows that he could easily have solidified the number 2 spot at this point. So I think, just got to give him love where it's due there, and say that he has done better to progress his game. And that's what this year is supposed to be all about. So if that means that he's become their number 2 and their go-to in that spot, then I'm all for it. And if that means he's going to get in every few games, then I'm all for that too. Friendly reminder to make sure that you are subscribed and following us across social media. You can also find all of our author pages to see everything we're publishing, all in the description below. Let's talk a little bit overtime now. It was not a very friendly topic when this season first started, but it's become a little bit of a happier one for us as Blackhawks fans. The Blackhawks lost their first 4 games that went beyond regulation, 2 in the extra frame and 2 in a shootout. They've completely turned the tide since, having now won their past 4 overtime games, not requiring the shootout at all. What is one difference you've witnessed that you'd attribute as their main reason they're finding more success in overtime as of late? Brooke, anything you're seeing in overtime?
Just not being bougie. I think Colleton was trying to get too fancy with putting weird pairings together, like Jan Mark and Camp out there, and thinking that was a good, just trying to get just way too fancy. Now we just went right back to basics, putting Suter with Kugli, putting Kane with DeBrincat. That stuff we know works. So I think that's just what it is, just going back to basics. And obviously that's worked for us at 5-on-5. It's worked for us in overtime, and thankfully Colleton kind of got the hint now that you should stick with what works and not try to get all fancy.
Yeah, good point. Greg, you think it's more about sticking to what works, or what have you seen?
I mean, to me, 3-on-3 overtime is a crapshoot. There's not really a whole lot of strategy involved. Puck possession is the key to winning 3-on-3 overtime. The team that has the puck first has the best chance to win, or has the puck most. So you don't really need to worry about defensive matchups in overtime, which Brooke said I think was Colleton was trying to play defense in overtime, and that's how you lose overtime games. And now he says, well, hey, let's go out and score a goal. Novel idea. It tends to be a successful recipe. So that's why I just think a change in mindset of having an offensive attack as opposed to, hey, we can't give up a goal. And then just a little bit of luck. That's what it takes.
Luck on the Blackhawks side is not a bad thing for the season that we all expected, so I'll take it. Nimrit, you think it's luck? You think it's strategy? What have you been seeing?
But what I've seen is that the games that they've lost, they've been on the tail end of shots on goal. And then the games that they've won, and I've also seen this after the 4 games they've lost, the shots on goal has increased, and also they've won those games. So I think that was definitely the problem there. Just got to get more opportunities, more shots on goal, and they've won all of the games that they've led on shots on goal, except with the exception being, I believe it was the Predators. And you saw how disappointed Colleton was, because that's definitely a game they should have won. So I think shots on goal is definitely a big formula to win those overtime goals, for sure.
Yeah, good point. Good stat to point out. I mean, pulling it all together there, as Brooke said, keeping it to the basics. Greg mentioned a little bit of puck luck and winning the face-off and getting the puck on your side, and that all feeds into what Nimrit's point is of just being able to get more shots in the first place. All of that said, to me, it's looked like they've just been a more confident bunch in the latter part of this little short span that we've seen of them early on in the season. I know it's easy to be confident when you're winning, but the reality is that can speak volumes to how a team comes out and plays and what they're deploying out there. In those first 4 games, they were still looking like they were trying to find their identity. Like they were still trying to figure out who was where, who was playing with who, sort of to Brooke's point, trying to figure out what Colleton was thinking. And instead of having to do that anymore, it just feels like they know where each other are. They know who to get the puck to, and they know how to break out with a little bit more of a seamless manner. So to me, it's just been all about confidence. They feel good about what they're doing. They know how to get the puck moving. They know that they have confidence in the back end as far as whether it's Lankin or Subban, and that's key. And they're just taking advantage of their chances, like Greg and Nimrit have mentioned here. So to me, it's been all about confidence, and I hope that they can maintain that even after a tough loss to Carolina, which wasn't in extra time. But I just hope that doesn't shake them, so they can maintain this level of confidence as they move forward here in the short span of the early season. As far as maintaining confidence, sometimes that does help decide who's in and who's out. So I'm going to call this segment Start or Scratch. Having so many players show up to perform game in and game out is certainly a desirable scenario. However, roster limits means that difficult decisions sometimes have to be made regarding who gets to continue on that path and who is forced to recharge from the sidelines. In the last game, I'm going to present you with a scenario, and I want you to think this through. It's the last game of the season, and a win means that the Hawks are in the playoffs. Within each of the following pairs, which player would you start and which would you scratch between the two? I want you to give me a concise sentence backing up your case. Pair 1, Pia Suter, Philip Kurashev. Craig.
I am starting Kurashev just because he does a lot of those little things that don't show up on a score sheet in order to win a hockey game.
Nimrit?
I have to go with Suter. I just feel like he's been more productive in goals and points in general. Yeah.
Brooke, break the tie. Who are you going with?
Starting Kurashev because he's a natural playmaker.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring it right back and tie it up again and say Suter, because as a former Swiss League MVP, I think he's obviously proven that he has what it takes in the big games. Let's go to pair 2 between Janmark and Strome. Nimrit.
I have to go with Janmark just because he's played in these big games. He's played in the Stanley Cup, so his clutch performance is definitely needed in that game.
Brooke?
Starting Janmark because I think he's been more productive during this year than Strome has.
Greg?
Gonna stick with Janmark, even though sacrificing center depth is never a good idea, but you got to have production, which you're not getting from Strome right now.
Yeah, sweeping the board, starting Janmark as well, obviously because of the production, but also just from his appearance last year in the final. That would obviously bode well for his confidence going into such a tight game. Pair 3, DeBrincat, Lankinen, Brooke.
Starting Lankinen because you need a goalie in the playoffs.
Greg, need a goalie or need a scorer?
Lankinen got to have the hot goalie.
Nimrit.
Yeah, I got to go with Lankinen too. He's the best netminder for the Blackhawks right now, so we can't go without him.
Yeah, another sweep here. I'm obviously going to start Lankinen. I love DeBrincat, as anyone who follows the show knows, but the reality is you're in a must-win situation. You don't play around with who's in net. Speaking of playing around, let's do some predictions here, and let's look at the week ahead. The Hawks will visit the Columbus Blue Jackets for games on Tuesday and Thursday, and then host the Detroit Red Wings for a back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday. So far this season, they've split their first 2 sets with Columbus and are undefeated against Detroit. I'm going to throw some yes or no questions out to the panel to keep these predictions pretty straight and to the point. Yes or no, Chicago will beat Columbus both games, Greg?
No.
Nimrit?
No.
Brooke?
No.
I'm going to say yes and go against the grain here. Yes
All
or
right,
no?
in honor of
I mean, they
Gail.
are a
Somebody's gotta
dumpster
be
fire.
optimistic.
Columbus is a dumpster fire. That's a
Wow.
fine prediction, but I don't know.
To be honest, I played into it a little bit for me, but the reality is I just think that they're going to break that mold, but that'll also fill into my next answer because I think some patterns will change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're a bad matchup for the Hawks, no matter how well or poor they're playing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. As far as the next one, which might be a better matchup for the Hawks, yes or no, the Blackhawks will remain undefeated versus the Red Wings, Greg?
No.
Nimrit?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
I'm saying no as well. I think that's where their pattern will break in that respect. Yeah. We don't want to see it, but let's be honest, 4-0 at this point, no one really saw that coming. So it might be
I only said no because it's back-to-back games, and that's tough. If there was a day in between the games, I would have said yes.
Even with the back-to-back, who knows who's going to get in net? I mean, will it be Subban? Will it be Lilia? Who knows? Yes.
Well, we get 2 dumpster fire teams. Yay, us.
Well, hopefully we don't become one of them by the end of this.
Yeah. Sorry.
We're on a thin line here between the two.
Yeah, sorry about that. Didn't mean to jinx us there.
On that note, they will maintain a playoff spot after these 4 contests. Yes or no, Greg?
Yes.
Nimrit?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes, dumpster fires.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
why.
gonna say yes as well. But do we think yes because of the sample size here, that they're going to still have more games in hand, or will they deserve that spot? Just open it to the floor.
I think it's yes, just because the teams they're in contention with are playing against each other. So as long as they split, they won't lose or gain any ground. So that's my reasoning.
Yeah, no kidding. Any quick predictions? Again, throw it out and leave it open for all of you. Who you have your eye on this week and who you think will be your potential star by the end of this upcoming week?
I still got my eye on Kane. That's probably a safe option because obviously even when he's playing bad, he's good. But I predict honestly that we're gonna have we should have a good week. I think we'll rebound nicely because Carolina's kind of a tougher opponent than these 2 teams. So I think we should be okay.
Anyone else? Who are you guys looking at?
I think Lakinen's gonna have a really good week just because playing Detroit twice really helps, and I think he'll do pretty well against the Blue Jackets as well. I think I think the Blackhawks are gonna split the series, but Lakinen should overall play really well.
Greg?
I don't know if it's actually a prediction or if it's something I'm more hoping for, but I'm hoping / predicting for a nice week out of Adam Boqvist. If there's somebody that needs to have a couple of good games back to back, he's the guy. He's had a couple of weeks to step away from the game. Sometimes that's all you need. You need a little refresh button, and hopefully it turns out, because if there's one kid that needs to get some confidence going, he's the one.
That's a great pick. I agree. And when he did come back, he looked refreshed and recharged. So, you know what? I'll give him the same love and the same kudos there that you just did, Greg, and I'll backpack on that and just say that let's hope that these guys all have a good week, but Boqvist certainly could use it.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, that'll do it for another episode of Blackhawks Banter. Thank you, Greg, Brooke, and Nimrit for joining me, and a special shout out to all of you for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Blackhawks Banter. And in the meantime, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and follow us all on Twitter. Take care, folks.
Peace.